Wonderful to have you all and giving a year to, I think, what is probably the most important underpinning for tourism, which is something to do with sustainability. But I have an array of wonderful speakers who all come from a fairly diverse backdrop and experiences. So let me just put a context to what has happened in the world of tourism vis-a-vis sustainability so far. So very quickly in a capsule, I think I've been in this business about 43 years now, running a venture in a luxury travel company. And I think three chambers of my heart were more environment, and maybe one of them was business. So when I saw what was happening, and a lot of us who came from a kind of a, connect with nature, environmental responsibility, and just being a good citizen of the planet, we wanted something to happen within tourism. So PATA as an organization is the first one that took the lead. A lot of associations sadly just did lip service. But having said that, over a period of time, I'm happy to say that with the Ministry of Tourism and various state governments, we have gone down the path of sustainable tourism to a certain degree. I'm not saying we are happy where we are at now. We want to really accelerate the pace. There have been a lot of national workshops. There have been lots of documents. There have been lots of strategy booklets on environment and ecotourism. And at the same time, India has also adopted the Sustainable Tourism Criteria of India certification, which is based on the Global Sustainable Tourism Criteria. Now, it's not to say that certification is the only way, but it's certainly one way of making sure that some things happen in the right way, at least at the industry level. Going forward, last year was quite an interesting juncture where, with the Ministry of Tourism and our non-profit national body called the Responsible Tourism Society of India, which has a MOU with the ministry and UNEP, we were able to create responsible traveler guidelines. And this is what we hope and pray that it will become a national campaign, so that as you change consumer behavior, it also impacts what the industry response will be. Now, having said all that, there is still a dying and a crying need to look at carrying capacity. We've talked about over-tourism was mentioned in the previous sessions. So with me, I'm going to actually ask our wonderful panelists over here to give us some practical suggestions on what they think that needs to be done from an industry perspective, and what is it that we can carry back to the government as a suggestion on what either the central ministry or the state governments need to do. So let me start with Isha, because she's all about, creating experiences. And in some ways, what she does might even relieve the pressure on the built heritage monuments. So Isha, why don't you hold forth for a few minutes and tell us what is your thought in trying to mitigate the carrying capacity issue, as well as what needs to be done in the genre of responsible tourism.
Okay, so we've been pushing this with our partners as well quite a bit actually, about changing the narrative about what constitutes a city tour. Because, there's a question that I ask when I do my sales pitches, which I say that, okay, what is it that you're going to show people in Bombay when a friend is traveling? And then they have a very different answer. And then when I ask them, what is it that you're showing your tourists, then they have a very different answer. So city tourism, city tours, for instance, for the longest time have been about cramming monuments in one itinerary. They don't necessarily make any sense with a very, very cohesive narrative. The story of Qutub Minar in Delhi is very, very different from the story of Humayun's tomb, very different from Jama Masjid. And they're all crammed in one itinerary. And just, the problem is not also just about over-tourism. I'm also trying to tell them about bits that matter, it's not just the right way of travel to blend other elements, it's also the fun way to travel. it's more fun to put the hat on your head about like how would I do it differently if I were to plan this itinerary for a friend, for instance. The second aspect I feel like is that the KPIs, as long as they will not continue to talk about carrying capacity, as long as they will not continue to measure how much our itineraries are involving local people, how much our itineraries are talking about the destination in the most positive light, there will be very, very little incentive for people on ground to change anything. We will continue to do that same Old Delhi itinerary, we will continue to do that same crazy, the monument tour, because there's very little incentive at the end of the day where if the success metric is just financial revenue at the top level, then it's going to matter very, very little at the ground level to want to change stuff. But the larger answer is that there is so much to our destinations beyond what we're already doing. And to add to that, there need to be a little more incentivizing to do that.
Yeah, so you're really talking about the whole fundamental of the experiential tourism that we often talk about, but I think not many of us, especially the larger agencies, do a deep dive to really understand that that is what people will probably go back, carrying that experience rather than having seen or taken one selfie at a great
all the time,
monument, right?
All the time. We have been doing this tour called, for instance, the Five Senses that comes to my mind, which is a mix of monuments and other elements, but I think people meeting people, us facilitating that, them getting a chance to interact with the local community over maybe a craft workshop, that's what they take back the most every single time. And I feel like if as an industry we're aligned on that, okay, where are the fun bits, where are the times where people are laughing together when they're coming together, and that's the success metric, I think we will have more options where we can circulate the travelers.
So your message to the private industry would be to really adopt some of these strategies rather than thinking in those sort of built heritage silos.
My message would be exactly that. It would be about to think of this as a KPI metric, as a success metric. I don't want that like something should be thought of as an offbeat tour. Why is that the offbeat tour? No. We have enough data within our organization spanning now doing 10 years of, and I think Mumbai by Dawn, a tour that we started off today, which happens to be a tour that's almost on all itineraries of foreign tour operators, is a great example of an itinerary that started out as completely cultural, look into communities that can compete with the Taj and the monuments. So it's possible.
Excellent. Now, so Shobha, why don't you give us sort of an insight into Rare does a lot of curating of hotel properties that are sustainable in their operation, that are obviously trying to do the right thing. What from your sort of angle would be what you would like the other hotels, lodges, whether small, medium or large. What are the few things that they need to do to become part of a great destination?
Thank you, Mandeep, and fantastic insight. Isha. One of the things I mean, our population, the world population is about 8 billion plus. Whatever you do, whatever little initiative you start, even Mumbai by Dawn, and we were one of the first people to experience Mumbai by Dawn, and it was an amazing way to get a city. But the problem with the industry with all of us is, so Mumbai by Dawn, instead of becoming a starter, Mumbai by Dawn becomes the end of something. So nobody comes up and says, okay, are we that is when product innovation happens, when the industry is thinking as an entity. Instead of that, somebody else will start another company and start off thing, and so there is Mumbai by Dawn in some other place. So my problem with the industry and with what we do in the name of sustainability and things like that, we are a very unaware audience. We don't as an industry we don't think about innovation from a point of awareness. We want to look at something that somebody else is saying. I don't need to tell you that all our monuments are inundated. We've been crying this for a very long time. Also what we are doing is we are looking at if suddenly Ladakh is a trend, we will do it to death. I mean, Ladakh is now a sad story. right? So carrying capacities will whatever destination you take. If you keep building hotels and keep building airports and keep taking airplanes there, the carrying capacities are going to go through the roof. And the tourism ministry is not going to think about this. The industry has to think about it and how to put a stop to it. Ladakh, the way it existed even 10 years ago, is not what it looks like just now. My other point is there are so many destinations that started. We went there as an industry, completely ruined it and finished it, and then we moved away from there. Pushkar, which used to be the pin-up destination for India at one point in time, is sadly in dire straits. There is nothing in Pushkar to show. However, hotels have been built. They have that small window, and they are selling cheap tourism and things like that. But there is nothing that will be done to revive Pushkar. Now, my thing for tourism is that let's go back. I mean, instead of going to new destinations and building it to ruin it, why don't we go back to the old destination and rebuild the narrative there? Why don't we go back to Pushkar? Why don't we go back to Mussoorie? Because even in Mussoorie, despite the crowds that are going there, there is a section around there which is doing tourism right. Like Jabbar Khet is a great example. Look at the Kumaon Hills. Though again, the time after time, season after season, we see what we have done to tourism. But there is a section, there is a possibility to go back to that very same destination which we have overrun and to do things right in the destination. Instead, we keep pushing more and more tourism to these destinations. So if I want to address the audience at large and say, first of all, are you aware of what is happening when you're talking about tourism? And other young lady she'll talk to you about it. And I was very interested when I looked at her profile. She talked about degrowth. Do we even think about where we want to stop tourism as an industry? Forget about what the government is doing. So that is my pet peeve. Are you aware? Do you believe that this kind of tourism is sustainable in the long run? Are you making choices on a day-to-day basis? Will you say, no, I don't want to do? I was on a post I recently said there was a two young ladies who were doing work for me. They had a lot of business, and this is a small example. After a point, they came back to me and said, Shobha, we can't do your work. It's a lot of business for us. It is a very prestigious business, but we can't do this work. I recommend you take. Are we as an industry able to say this is enough? This number from my company is enough. We are unable to do that. Till we don't do that, this industry will go and ruin one destination after the other.
Wonderful. And I have to reveal a secret. Shobha is actually on our governing council of the Responsible Tourism Society of India. So these kind of wishes are pretty much what we often talk about. And I think there is something to be said about just being a good earth citizen. And if you all ever come across a book called The Third Wave, which is written by Amar Khan's uncle, who's MIT graduate, came back to India, did a couple of films, made his money, gave it all up, and he lives in Kannur as a cheese farmer. But that apart, the fact that he says in his book that the Earth, planet Earth, is in the ICU. So the concept of perpetual growth is in itself unsustainable. So sometimes you've got to rethink a lot of the models. We had hoped COVID would have been one such moment, but perhaps these are things that we still need to chip away at. But taking the cue, let me bring Sumit over here, who's a wonderful comes from the United Nations Environment Program in India, who are our MOU partners. And we've actually signed up with them to go away from the single-use plastic, which is crucial in the tourism industry. And perhaps you can tell us a few thoughts about what we are doing in the world of garbage, plastics, how the tourism industry can actually walk the talk in many ways in a very simple way. And one of the things is to allow every traveler to bring their own steel water bottle for every journey they do into the country. It's as simple as that. In fact, we've gone to the extent which sounded a bit banal or bizarre to the ministry when we told them. We said when a traveler comes to the immigration point and he shows the visa, you ask him to show a water bottle. Because when you enter the country, you will ensure that the guy is not going nuts buying plastic water bottle. Because every hotel you stay at, unless you're on a wilderness trip, you will get water dispenser, etc. But over to you, Sumit.
Thank you. Wonderful points. Taking the cue from Earth in the Ice. I must say that we have reached, the water has reached to this level. We talk about any environmental resource. Most rivers in the country are in the E category. So we have A, B, C, D, E, categories of water. Most of our rivers are in the lowest, corner of this categorization. Air quality, we are in Delhi, right? We know what we are talking about. But not just Delhi. More than 60% of this country are not meeting the national standards. I must tell you, our national standards are, so relaxed in comparison to the WHO guidelines. You talk about plastics. In salt, in water, wherever you are having these kind of things, you are taking intake of microplastics. All these bottles which are lying there on the table, when they reach the rivers, our marine environment, they will photodegrade and convert into small microplastics, invisible particles of plastics, and will get ingested into the aquatic animals, water, salt, and will come back to you. So we have reached that stage. We have also reached the stage when a cricket match is stopped because of bad air quality, right? On a lighter note, Virat Kohli got out on the very next ball when the match started. So all indirect impacts of environmental issues, right? But the matter is extremely serious, and there comes the concept of carrying capacities. Carrying capacity for what? Carrying capacity for our own industry, for its sustenance. It's not just about the people who are living in that destination. It's about whether my own company is going to sustain itself in the long term or not. The aesthetics, the sensitivity around the pristineness around the tourist destination, the aquatic life, that's what people go there for. And if we are going to destroy that, I don't think we are thinking long term about our own company or our own sustenance. Now, carrying capacity is something which ensures not only a threshold beyond which no one should go in terms of socioeconomic values or environmental values, but also customer satisfaction. When the customer satisfaction starts to go down, carrying capacity is assumed to be breached. So that is how carrying capacity concept needs to be acknowledged. We need to develop right kind of indicators, consensus-based indicators. Industry has to be part of this discussion, that what should be the indicators for defining carrying capacity of an area. And then once you decide that, adhere to it and make sure that the carrying capacity of that destination never breaches. We are talking about these older destinations which are in very bad shape, and we're talking about reviving them. We must ensure that the newer destinations never go to that extent, and we don't have these kind of destinations anymore, which needs revival. So in short, what I want to say is that there's a lot which private sector can do, and whatever I've said is quite negative. Let me end on a positive note, that there are win-win opportunities available there. So if you go to this website called Global Tourism Plastics Initiative of UNEP, all of you can become part of it. There are strategies given there which not only ensure that environment is protected, your carrying capacity is not breached, but it will also ensure that in the process you will reduce your costs per tourists. And I'm sure this is going to be a win-win situation for all of us together. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sumit. And I think I could add to the little positive note at least that the Ministry of Tourism has now constituted, as of last year, a National Sustainable Tourism Board. And when we meet there, there are many organizations and people. We worked with them on the strategy paper, and one of the things that we had kept pressing for, and it's finally come on paper, now I hope it can be action on the ground, and that's exactly the point, that when a state government asks for money to the Ministry of Tourism for tourism development in their state, we've requested that they, and it's embedded in the policy, that they must do a full tourism plan, including carrying capacity, before they get the release of the money. And there is also an inbuilt amount for the study of that spot. So God willing, if they push it through, if the state governments play ball, I think we are lucky and we might just see the future at least being a little more sustainable in terms of destination. We've also initiated through CII, who has a National Tourism Committee, to say that can we have a dipstick on all the existing tourism destinations like the Mussooris and the Manalis and the Shimlas, which are clearly gone down the tube, and see what we can do in terms of the assessment. And once we come back with that info, again, that'll be something that we can tackle, But these are things, again, for me and for many of us in the industry, I think what we need is a lot more of you all in the industry to lend the shoulder to the responsible tourism movement, because the pace that we go at is far too slow. And like, I've been joking with my friends, my beard has gone white, but I don't see the kind of stuff that we wanted to see when we started the movement. And so we need a lot of shoulder to this movement. So with that, let me come to Shreyas, who's done some amazing study on sustainable tourism in Switzerland. She's an activist. She, has a blog coming out or a podcast coming out on Monday onwards. And I think it's also a lot to do with just creating awareness. And a large amount of, if you go to the rtsoi.org website and see the responsible traveler guidelines, I think it's not rocket science. It's simple stuff. It's being respectful about certain things which are just common sense and some which are science-based. For example, if you were going and camping, do you know that you should not camp at least not 100 feet, next to a river source? Because people think it's cool to say right next to a river. It's actually really uncool to do that. And you should never wash directly. So it's things like that. It's small stuff. And I think you're doing a yeoman service if you're transmitting all that, because imagine the number of domestic travelers that we've got. And I mean, we still see, garbage being thrown out of cars and so on. We are hoping that the government will adopt a app for responsible travelers. More on that later. But let me ask you, what are the key things that you feel that you need to do for the industry or for the traveler, or indeed if you had a message for the government, because we are down to about 7 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've resonated with so much of what has been said here already, starting with what you said. When we mentioned degrowth, degrowth essentially means you cannot have infinite growth on a planet that is finite. We have finite resources, and you cannot expect infinite business growth, infinite economic growth on a planet that does not support that at a scale and speed at which it cannot function, which is what is happening right now. That's when the growth becomes unsustainable. So when we talk about degrowth in tourism, there's a lot of, I'm sure we've heard of regenerative agriculture. In terms of agriculture, that's when regeneration gets spoken of a lot. But when it comes to tourism, we don't talk about regenerative tourism enough. It's essentially giving that tourist destination enough space, time to recover after a tourist activity. So when mass tourism happens, when over-tourism happens, you're essentially destroying that place. You're not letting the place recover or heal from tourism activities before putting more pressure on it. So degrowth is definitely one aspect. The second thing we mentioned, you said, selfies, taking selfies as destinations or marketing a destination. our social media plays such a huge role in what choices we make as tourists. We want to replicate pictures that others have taken. We want to replicate the ads that come to us. So media, ads, the travel industry has such a huge role to play in how much we travel, where we travel, the way we travel, and the places that we visit. So if we change the narrative for our media, the material that comes on our feed, on our algorithms, for that to be more sustainable, for that to be more conscious, to promote slow travel, to promote conscious travel, like you said, carrying a steel bottle wherever you go. For me, that's the norm. Because I know there's water, living in Switzerland, I knew there were water dispensers available everywhere. Traveling by train was the norm. So there's a mix of having the infrastructure, the knowledge, the awareness, but also the push from people around you. And that includes everyone. We need people in the academics, we need scientists, we need policymakers, we need government, we need travelers, we need media, we need everyone. So when decisions are being made, it cannot be made by people who they do not represent. You need all voices on the table, and I think that's where we'll be able to get to policies that are inclusive, policies that are reflective of what is happening on ground. That is what is missing when it comes to us even talking about studies for carrying capacity. Who do they impact, and what role do tourists play in that regard? Because essentially we are destroying what we love. If you say you love a destination and you want to go see that place, over-tourism is essentially destroying that very thing that you want to go see and protect. It's like me saying, I love fish. I'm vegan. I don't eat fish. I don't love fish. But if you claim to eat fish and you're overfishing, you're essentially destroying sea life in the ocean. And that's what we're doing with over-tourism as well. So I'd say it's a mix of awareness, it's a mix of education, but you cannot leave tourists behind. You cannot leave media behind, and you definitely cannot leave our private industry, tourist industries. You cannot leave anyone behind. Everyone has to be part of the decisions that we make.
So as I hear it, she's a vegan. And even a vegan can say, we can do it, so we can do it too. Okay? Okay. But sure.
I fully agree with her, and I wanted to say that at our industry level where we work, I think we mollycoddle our travelers a lot. So, and I think it doesn't, being destination centric is not opposite of being traveler centric. As somebody who walks on ground, I think context is so important. Yes. Give them as much pre-trip context as you can. I was hearing the bit that you said about camping. I've noticed that positive reinforcement helps so much with these things. So for instance, on a tour, if they're doing volunteering at Bangla Sahib, if they get to know that they've actually fed 3 people the lunch today, that's something that's very, very good reinforcement that they seem to take back. If they get to know, okay, if you camp right outside of in this much distance, this is the amount of impact. If we can put some kind of data in storytelling and say that this is the kind of impact you've made to marine ecology today, and congratulations, that's the lovely kind of peer pressure I feel that helps a lot on ground. We've, in the past in Bombay, worked with discarded nets that impact marine ecology a lot. And on our tours, we've made bags with those nets. And then I've seen people carrying those bags for other tours as well. And it becomes a cool thing to do when you see other people do it. And I feel context is everything. Give them pre-trip context. Tell them that this is what the locals prefer. This is what the destination is about. And I think as there is now rise for conscious consumerism, people are appreciating that kind of knowledge about destinations. On the contrary, I think the focus is continuing to be a lot about how can we completely change this destination for the traveler in mind, which is, I think, continues to be the outdated approach.
No, absolutely. And as a lot of us in our society say, that honestly, you go to a B school and you learn the customer is king. But maybe it's time that we thought environment is king, and then allocate your policies or actions according to that.
Sorry, so if I can interject, I don't think we're separate from the environment. When we say protect the environment, I think we're actually protecting ourselves. That's what it is, because we're part of it. And anything that happens to the environment affects us in any way. So I think it's not...
Absolutely, but I'm just trying to be so basic about it to say, Maro Goli, make environment the king.
Yeah,
So,
also
Shobha.
Mandy, one of the things that we talk, especially in this whole luxury tourism business, this whole thing about, and I completely agree with Isha when she says that why do we mollycoddle our travelers so much, right? And in this race to be that luxury, we actually put in a lot of excesses which is completely against the environment. And even with these bottles and room amenities and things like that, you are looking at, having it in, moving shampoos and things like that into glass bottles. Nobody ever thought that if you are a luxury traveler and you're used to certain brand, why don't you bring your own shampoo? And the next level to sustainability is not happened. And with this thing with bottles, I have so many bottles when I go to these events and things like that. My house help refuses to take it. I told her, you please take the, she says, no, mere paas bahut hai. So I'm just saying that we need to, all of this is not necessary. What is that essential for a destination's experience? What is it that you absolutely need? You need a great shower, you need a comfortable bed, and you need a great story of the destination to be told, because you don't want to be sitting in Jaipur and experiencing a Thailand-like hotel, for instance, right? So that is, we are not, our sustainability dialogue is not going beyond what we are actually, what is being put in front of us. There is a lot, and the minute hoteliers, agents, experience specialists, they start thinking about what is not essential. The non-essentials are removed. I think we are on a great journey towards building a great sustainability thing, and also building tourism as a big change maker.
Okay, I think we've got a time's up button happening, which I was hoping we could pop in a question or two from the audience, but I do apologize. But I would absolutely like to maybe throw a brownie point at Navneet, because I know right now we are considering a formal MOU between the Responsible Tourism Society and ET, which I hope will mean that they can carry some of the messages of responsible tourism out to the greater public or to the industry. And as far as all of you are concerned, please do the yeoman service of going to each of your associations, organizations, and saying, let's join the responsible travel movement, because without that, it ain't going to happen. But with that, may I thank our wonderful panelists, and thank you all for being reasonably attentive. Thank you.
Thank you.